So in today's video, I wanted to talk about what you absolutely need to get started with sublimation. So just the absolute necessities for sublimation and not all the extra things. If you want to see what I have to say, just keep watching. If you're new to my channel, my name is Leslie. My channel is all about crafting on a budget. I do Cricut, sublimation, and sewing videos. So if any of those things interest you, please consider subscribing, joining my YouTube family. Don't forget to join my Patreon. And let's just jump into this video. I apologize in advance if I am out of breath. I am 9 months pregnant and your girl cannot talk without getting out of breath. So let's start with the very basics. You need a sublimation printer. I have the Sawgrass SG500. I love it. It's around $600 or so. It only prints up to 8.5 by 14, which really sucks, but it's a good starting sublimation printer. The ink is really expensive on it, but it does last a long time and I only have to buy ink once a year. So that's kind of, it's okay. You can also get like a Epson EcoTank printer and convert that to sublimation. The only downside with that is that sometimes, because they're not made to be sublimation printers, you can have some issues with it, and lots of people do. I had a Epson Workforce printer that I converted to sublimation, and that one was able to print to 13 by 19, which was nice, but it messed up really quickly because of the sublimation ink in it. And it was just a hot mess. You have to deal with pizza wheels on it, like little black lines and stuff on it. There's just too much. I think it's better to just get a printer that is meant for sublimation. Epson now has printers meant for sublimation. They have a smaller printer, and then they have really big, large format printers. So I would say save your money and invest in a printer that is meant to do sublimation, because in the long term it's going to be better for you. You won't have as many issues with it. But I know a lot of people do convert the Epson printers to sublimation printers. It's just what you're really willing to deal with, I guess. If you do get a sublimation printer, I think it would be smart to get one that can print up to 13 by 19, because if you have a smaller printer like mine, if you're doing a bigger image, you have to cut it and kind of piece it together and tape it up and then press it, which can be a pain sometimes depending on how big of a project you're doing. So having a printer that prints bigger would be better. With that sublimation printer, you need sublimation ink. You can't use regular pigment ink for the printer. It needs to be sublimation ink. Cosmos ink is a great one. There's a lot of different brands. Honestly Speaking has their own ink. Lots of different brands have good sublimation ink. So make sure that you're getting sublimation ink and not pigment ink, because if you put regular ink, it's not going to work, and you can mess up your printer if you have a along with that, you're going to need some sublimation paper. There's different types of papers, different sizes. A-Sub is a really popular one. They've been around for a while. They have different sizes. They have 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, 13 by 19, and I don't know, they have bigger than that, but they're really good and affordable. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them on their website. I'll have them linked down below. They're a good company to use. There's also companies like Sub. This is like my favorite sublimation paper right now. These are great. So with A-Sub, you're gonna need butcher paper on top because your ink can bleed through. But there's companies like Sub, honestly speaking, where you don't need any butcher paper on top, which is really nice. You can kind of save a little bit of money there, I guess, by not having butcher paper on top, because the ink doesn't get through. But these are all great options. Try different ones, see which one you like the best. A-Sub is probably the most affordable one. Probably the easiest one to get to because you can buy it on Amazon. You don't gotta pay shipping if you have Amazon Prime. But there's so many good companies. I have a few different brands of sublimation paper. Super important that you use sublimation paper. I know some people use regular printer paper, but that's really thin and it works for some people and then other people it don't. And I think you have to get specific printer paper as well. So just use sublimation paper and get the size. Make sure you're paying attention to the size and get the size that your printer takes. So I mentioned that if you're using A-Sub, and there's some other brands too, that you're gonna need some butcher paper. You can use butcher paper, parchment paper, or craft paper. If you've never seen butcher paper, it's literally paper that they use at like a butcher parlor, wrap up the meat and things like that. You can buy a big one of these at Sam's for a decent price, under $30, and it will probably last you a long time. Or you can get some on Amazon. I'll have both options linked down below for you. This comes in handy under your projects, on your mat, to protect your mat from getting ink on it. Also comes in handy on top of your whatever you're pressing, your sublimation paper. If it needs a blowout paper, you put this on top of everything to protect the top of your heat press. Because if ink gets on the top of your heat press or your mat, the next time you turn on that heat press and you're doing another project, it's gonna reactivate that ink and it's gonna get onto your project and then it's gonna be all messed up and you don't want that. So super handy to have. You can also use this inside of shirts to prevent bleeding through to the other side and other projects like that. You're gonna need some heat tape. Do not use regular tape. That is gonna melt under your heat press. You need heat tape that is meant to go to the temperature you'd be pressing it. With sublimation, you're most likely doing 400 degrees most of the time. Unless your heat press runs hot, I do 385 most of the time. If I'm using InnoSub, I do 360. You need tape that is going to withstand heat. So I'll have this heat tape linked down below and another one that I've used. This is a clear heat tape. I have another one that I used for a long time and like that one as well. Heat tape, super important. This will hold down your project, your paper to your project so that it's not shifting around and causing ghosts. This is not an essential, but a tape, well, you know what? It is an essential. Because when I first started, I didn't have it. It's affordable. I think this one was only like 10 bucks. And a tape dispenser is important because it's really hard if you just have the tape by itself and you're trying to cut off each piece and then put it on. It's trust me, it's terrible. So tape dispenser is an essential. I'm gonna say it is an essential. It comes in handy. You can also use it as a weight to hold down your paper as you're taping. Super important. And you're going to need a lint roller. I'm gonna say a lint roller is essential. You use it a lot in sublimation. You use it for shirts. If you're making a blanket, anything with fabric, you need to lint roll it, or that lint is gonna turn blue when you press it under the heat press. So a lint roller is super important for anything fabric related. You need a pair of scissors to cut your butcher paper, cut your sublimation paper. Scissors come in handy. I'm sure you have those in your house. And the last thing that is an absolute essential is a heat press. There's different types that you can get. You can get like a Cricut Easy Press. Number 2 and number 3 would be your options. The first one cannot get to the temperature that you need. Again, you need it to be able to get to 400 degrees. So pay attention to that. I honestly just wouldn't say don't get a cheap one off Amazon, like those that are like 6-in-1, 5-in-1. Eventually it's gonna burn out. It's just not gonna last you as much. Get one that is from a good brand. Mine, I have a Heat Press Nation one. This was a huge upgrade for me. Before that, I just had my Easy Press 2. I have one that is 16 by 20, I believe. And I think it's a good, decent size for starting. Like sometimes I wish it was bigger, but it's a good size for the space that I have. So make sure you're not getting one that's too big for the space that you have. I would say the smallest to go would be 15 by 15, but honestly, that if you're doing something bigger, you're gonna have to press a lot. So 16 by 20 is a good size, I would say. You can do a lot of things with a 16 by 20. Get a good one. There's clamshells, there's swingaways where the mat and where you put your fabric and stuff stays in one place and then the top swings. Those are nice. I don't have one of those. Clamshells is like mine. It just goes like this. There's now some with auto pressure and things like that. So there's different options out there. Do your research. Don't just buy the first one you see. Do your research. Read reviews. Watch YouTube videos. It's an investment, and you can use it not just for sublimation. You can use it for HTV and other things. Even if you're sewing, you can use to apply interfacing or fusible fleece or things like that. So it comes in handy. You want to make sure you're getting a good one that's gonna last you a while, instead of getting one for $100 that says it can do a bunch of different things. If something says it's like a 6-in-1, it's not doing all of them well. You know what I mean? A lot of people buy those cheap heat presses and then they don't last them very long. So invest. You don't have to buy one that's like $1,000 or anything like that, but just do your research. Know what's available to you. Don't get a really small heat press. You're gonna end up wanting to upgrade very quickly. Get a good size that you will be able to do most of your projects with. Along those lines, if you plan on doing mugs, tumblers, things like that, get a mug press. I have the Heat Press Nation Signature mug press, and with that, the one I have, it has different heating elements. I will show you, but I can switch it out and I can do 11-ounce mug, 15-ounce mug, a tumbler, a wine glass. It has like different heating elements that you can put into it, which is really nice. So if you're gonna get a heat press and you want to do all these different things, get a mug press that will be able to do all those things. Instead of when I first started, my mug press could only do mugs, like 11 and 15-ounce mugs. I couldn't change the elements on it, the heat element on it, and so it makes you a little bit limited. Now, some people use convection ovens to do their mugs and stuff on there. Totally your preference if you want to get a convection oven or if you want to get a mug press. And that's really all you need to get started with sublimation. The most pricey thing is going to be your heat press, your mug press, and your heat press. Those are going to be the most pricey things. Sublimation paper isn't that pricey. Sublimation ink, depending what kind you get, isn't that pricey compared to your heat press. A lint roller, tape, that's pretty affordable. Maybe buy things slowly here and there. Save up for your heat press. That's going to be the most pricey thing. I hope this video was informative. I just wanted to touch the basics, like what you absolutely need for sublimation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to join my Patreon. It's only $2 a month and it's just supporting my channel. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.